Oh boy, Taika Waititi has a new movie that's coming out. Remember when you would have been excited about that? Look, not everyone's a fan of Taika Waititi now, or maybe even then, but I was. I loved What We Do in the Shadows. I really loved what he did on Thor 3, Ragnarok. And there was just kind of like a vibe to his movies. It just clicked with me, especially with something like Hunt for the Wilder People. But then something changed. Jojo Rabbit, the terrible Thor Love and Thunder, where it felt that Taika Waititi was literally just phoning it in at a lowest effort possible. But when I heard that he was going to make a fictional version, well, an adaptation of the documentary Next Goal Wins, which is about a new soccer coach coming to coach the American Samoa team, which had never scored a goal in all of their history, I thought this was like the perfect material for him. That he could add his quippy kind of, heartfelt stuff, but also have an edge to it because you have the new coach coming in this movie played by Michael Fassbender, a great kind of cast of soccer players. Being from American Samoa could definitely play on that wavelengths that Taika Waititi does so well. And then the movie never came out. It was made. I'm not exactly sure when. I believe it was made before Thor Love and Thunder, and then it just sat on a shelf. I don't recall if it was because of the Disney merger. There were some problems because Armie Hammer had a role in the film, and then he was later replaced by Will Arnett, clearly the closest Armie Hammer analog. And I thought maybe it was just never going to come out or just be dumped on streaming, but then bam, it's playing at the TIFF International Film Festival. I remember all the times I laughed watching Taika Waititi movies, so I woke up early in the morning and went to go watch it at 8:30. And I gotta say, it's a fine. It actually probably leans closer to not that good when you come to Taika Waititi style. This is definitely not one that's gonna win anyone over, unless your complaint with his movies was, there's too many jokes. This is a story like an underdog sports story that almost writes itself. And he approaches it in a way that seems that maybe it wrote itself. The jokes are not mean enough. Michael Fassbender in the main role, and he hasn't been in front of the camera for a while, is like so low energy that he is the one that's really not bringing something to this film. I get the sense that it has been kind of test screened to death, that some scenes feel truncated. There's a lot of like off-screen dialogue by characters clarifying stuff that is already clear, but clearly somebody wrote on a card, wait, did this person quit at this time? And there's a lot of fun stuff, especially from the American Samoa team. Like the personality there, the charm, all that stuff is great. We don't spend enough time with them. And again, it all comes down to this movie has zero edge. Now, is that because they wanted to like Ted Lasso it up? Someone at the studio was like, let's get the softest, most least threatening version of this movie and put it out there because that's what it feels like the end result is. Like Michael Fassbender in this movie as a coach coming to this island against his will should have been like mean, should have had like a hard edge. And I don't know if it's, due to the recuts or the reshoots, all of that is basically gone from him. He's a little mean, he's a little distant. You get that he doesn't want to be there, but there isn't that kind of sharpness that, the team or the island people could have bounced off of. And because you don't have that, there's not really any tension. And there's also other issues that come into play, like the fact that a very important detail about Michael Fassbender's life, or the real life character he's based on, is kept as like a reveal for the end of the film. And it doesn't really work, even though it's trying to recontextualize everything that you saw before, because, he doesn't have that meanness. It's that kind of holding back an emotional reveal to try to make a point or like an emotional climax when you should have just had it from the beginning, because then it can kind of inform everything that comes after. Like maybe if that was at the top, then people would have accepted him being meaner, but like it just doesn't work. And it's such a frustrating and hack thing that like, and there's a lot of kind of hack stuff, like all the stuff people complain about Taika Waititi, the like lazy meta-ness, the fact that like this movie is filled with people quoting other movies in a way that is a joke, but just isn't really that funny because it's not cutting or commenting on what's going on. It's just like, oh yeah, look, Michael Fassbender is kind of doing a low energy version of Liam Neeson's speech in Taken. But I have to say, again, the team is so charming and the story is so compelling that by the end, when they play that game, I'm completely involved. I want to know what happens. I don't care about Michael Fassbender, but I care about the team and the actors that are portraying the players. So like, I'm just a mark for that kind of stuff. I love sports movie structures. And I think that where this one kind of stumbles as well is that like, it doesn't really give you a good sense of them working as a team or learning anything, and maybe that's the point of the movie at the end of the day, but I kind of need that to be able to like buy into the reality or get engaged, and Taika Waititi doesn't really kind of, you know, connect with any of that stuff, which is such a bummer. This feels like coasting through and through, and he's got a great cast, he's got a great concept, and it's just, it works, but in the like lowest energy way possible, which is probably more frustrating if it was just something that didn't click as well. Well, I don't know. I just see like the movie that could have been if like the guy who had made Thor Ragnarok had made it, had been like hungry, had packed the thing with jokes. You don't get this here. I mean, you know, my summary of this is watch the documentary. The documentary Next Goal Wins is fantastic, and you can just see all the real people, and it's engaging because it's really happening, and you don't really get that here, which makes the movie kind of pointless. Like, if there's a documentary that's so good, so compelling, and then there's kind of like a so-so movie version, just watch the documentary. And I hope that like Taika Waititi gets stung in some way or wakes up, because like he needs to get back to like a very little film that just packed with jokes, that like he is desperate to make as good as possible, because that ain't Next Goal Wins. I really wish it was, but it isn't.